I liked Mickey Young long before I ever saw him get on a bucking horse. I was just a young guy rodeo announcer, and I didn't know nothing. And he could ride bucking horses, and he's 10 years younger than me. But he took the time, not so I'd say better things about him, but he took the time to become my friend. And then I watched him ride, and he was young, thin, raw bone, tough, but always had a smile. And I think that's all was based then and later more in life on his faith. He's just an old raw bone cowboy that had the talent, and he did it his way. Through his career, to the heights of his career, recognized as a super champion, then a bucking horse guy, and then a great man of God. Mickey Young never changed. Success based on faith. That's what this is all about. Same thing he's still all about.
You know, one thing about my dad, he's tough. He grew up tough. One of the stories that I recall is him and his brother were gathering cattle one time, and they weren't allowed to take their guns with them. They came across a bobcat, and they roped that bobcat and tied it up in a tree when he was only 6 years old. They actually made the local paper for that, but you know, at 6 years old, he's roping bobcats, and it's a true John Wayne type of a story. He's just really tough and really gutsy and has a never say quit attitude.
My dad had a phenomenal bareback riding career. You know, he was 11 times qualifier to the national finals rodeo and 3 times run up to the world champion. He went 11 consecutive years, 1976 through 86, which is a pretty cool feat, you know. I think that just says something, as my dad, what kind of a fierce competitor he was, what kind of mindset he had.
He has such a will to win, and he just never quits. He works non-stop. It don't matter what it is, whether it was rodeoing or building horse pens or whatever. I mean, he's up at the crack of dawn, and he's the hardest worker I know.
As a kid, I always seen all the buckles and the saddles and the back numbers and all this stuff, and I really didn't put 2 and 2 together. But when you walk through the house, you see, you know, saddles and buckles from Houston and Pendleton and bronze from Calgary, and you know, go around buckles at the NFR, average buckles at the NFR, and you know, I didn't really realize until after I started rodeoing what that really meant.
He's an icon. He's one of the best bareback bronc riders in the history of the game. He was a technique master. He is one of the people that have actually mastered the art of riding bareback bucking horses, and it has shown in 3 runner-up titles that he has achieved in his career. And he's the same intense person as an athlete, but then when you step outside the arena, he's a gentleman. So I always looked up to him. When I first met him, he was a star, and he was one of those guys that I looked up to as a major league player in my game.
He rode bucking horses away from his hand, and he could reach and spur that horse. And then I got to where I announced a lot of rodeos a horseback, and a horse might circle me, and he'd say, "Hang on, Bob, 3 to go," and he'd just keep on and going, keep on and going.
My dad's won every major rodeo that's out there, you know, in his day and age. And, you know, to have that guy as a coach was pretty freaking cool. He was always there for me, and he put it all out there. There literally was blood, sweat, and tears. And as a coach, sometimes it was intimidating, but, you know, it was pretty cool to have that. And I went on and qualified for the National Finals Rodeo and the Canadian National Finals, and, you know, competed on some of the biggest stages, but that was all due to the help of my dad.
Mickey Young is an intense perfectionist in anything that he does, from riding bareback bucking horses. Following that, he had a career as a pickup man and as a stock contractor. That is a huge undertaking. And every detail of that, along with his beautiful wife, was obvious in their rodeo company. And then when he started doing this, I had no doubt that he would rise to the top, not only in quality, but in perfection of his input to what he could do to make this product move. And I know him, I trust him, you know, and whatever he puts in that product or is there and he sells it and pushes it, I'm sure it's fine for my family and ranch horses.
I've been around since Silver Lining Herbs has began. I've seen it from the ground up. You know, once again, I talk about him being a fierce competitor. It was no different when he stepped into this game. He had a testimony of the herbs and what they can do for the horses and the dogs and just us as humans. And my grandma was a naturopath for humans and had a very lucrative business and was having people from all over the country come to her place to, you know, the doctors had given up on them and they weren't ready to give up on themselves, and my grandma would get them turned around and on the right path. And so people started asking questions about their livestock. And my grandma would, refer them to my dad.
Mick would have to stop what he was doing and drive 6 miles into town to make up some kind of a mix. He got to where he was having to do that a lot. Well, shortly after that, we moved to Buell and we set up a room downstairs. I was cleaning houses at the time, and I would leave in the morning and I'd come home and he'd have these little sticky notes posted up on the wall of all these orders. And when I got home from work, I would go out and mix up the combinations and send them out. Well, one day I come home and the whole wall was full of all these little sticky notes with all these orders on it. And I thought, oh my gosh, how am I ever gonna get through all these orders? So it was right there when we decided we actually have a business here.
I mean, I would come home from school and we'd do our work and stuff. And as soon as the sun went down, my dad would stay up most of the night just learning more.
It wasn't long after that we had to build a big facility in town, and that's where we're at right now.
I seen everything that they went through. I mean, people calling BS on the product and you know, it's witchcraft, you know, voodoo stuff. And
when he first started this company, nobody would listen to him. I mean, it was like he'd go and talk places and, you know, he'd maybe have 2 or 3 people there because nobody believed that herbs helped horses. Back then, you really had to sell people on the idea. Finally, he had quite a few believers. He just, you know, he knows what he believes in and he's not ashamed to share that with people.
You know, it just kind of snowballed. Once one person got a testimony of it and seen what they could do with their horses, and, you know, you got that one person that has tried everything and once again doesn't want to give up on their horse. So they gave my dad a shot, and, you know, just one story after another, finally, you know, people started catching on.
He told me something that his mom had passed on to him, and what that was is you can't change the life-death process. We're all born one day and we all die one day. And he related that to horses, same thing for horses and for dogs, and how they're all born one day, they're all going to die one day, but they can have a good quality of life throughout their entire life. They don't have to get crippled and die. They don't have to get sick and die. They can get old and die. That's possible, you know, and you know, in today's world, I think a lot of us have forgotten that. And you know, when I heard that, I was like, that's real, that's true. You know, everything that I was hearing, you know, throughout my life is, you know, hey, this horse is crippled, so we got to put him down, or hey, this horse is sick, so we got to put him down for this. You know, if they're 16 years old, they're an old horse. And Mickey was telling me the exact opposite. It was just so refreshing for me to hear somebody say that we are in control of our own health. We don't have to depend on somebody else, and how freeing and liberating that was for me. And it's up to us as the horse owner or the dog owner to be responsible for that.
So I don't really remember not knowing Mickey, and he's just been that guy that's always been there if I have a question about nutrition on a horse, and having an issue that you can call no matter where you're at, and he's going to give you a very educated answer because he knows a lot about horses. And you know, I'm proud to be a part of his company and to call him a friend, because I think he's a really good person, and he definitely cares about the betterment of the horses and their health, and you know, making things better for them. And it's crazy how much knowledge that man has in his head. You know, that you can just talk to him for hours and always learn something from him, and I'm grateful to call him my friend.
Today, Mickey is a lot more involved with his grandchildren and working on his ranch and enjoying that. But he still absolutely comes to every weekly meeting. And you know, the thing that he continually instills in us is to do the right thing and look out for the horse and look out for the dog. Try to give them a voice. You know, too many people, you know, think that it's just putting dog food in a bowl and throwing some hay over the fence, and that's horse care. But he instills in us every single week and reminds us it's our job to help give those animals a voice. I can't even really comprehend it. You know, like I've heard stories about how he started this company and the will to see it through and do the right thing and fight for truth. It's changed my life, and it's changed hundreds of other people's lives and thousands of other horses' lives and thousands of other dogs' lives. I mean, what Mickey is a guy that stands up for the truth and for doing the right thing, and he deserves all the good things that comes to his life because of those qualities and fighting for the right thing to do.
Go now to Mickey Young, Jerome, Idaho. Mickey Young is also in the stock contracting business, and as we saw in one of our earlier telecasts, he drew one of his own horses. He rides for Mopar. 9 times he's been to the national finals, and 3 times this young man has been the runner-up to the world. What a record, Red. Earned over $500,000 in his career.
Impressive. Man, cowboy, athlete, friend. And I think maybe that was the start of an era. Them brutes Ford, the end of Joe Alexander, they needed a Mickey Young. So he fit. Still fits in my life.